On the program academic side, we saw the setting up of some new centers. We saw a focus on people with disability and the NS Ramaswamy Pre-Doctoral Programme. We saw the launch of the BA. Would you like to give us some of your thoughts on these academic and research kind of areas, please?
Though I think in one of the first board meetings, I mean, I went through the agenda of the previous quite a few academic council meetings, or then the faculty council meetings and the board meetings. And I sensed a couple of things that which I thought were needed a little push, nudge, whatever. One of them was that we should think of a center focused on with an international focus, preferably Asia focused, maybe China or Japan. I think there had been such discussions. And in that context, I must say I did have discussions with Professor Sushil Vachani, and he was saying, of course, one is he was very, very enthused and excited about the MOOCs, and that should continue and actually grow further. So that was one takeaway from him, because I think he had sort of really built that up. The other was this possibility of a East Asia looking research center. I think those were probably the two things that he may have felt. So first of all, why Japan? Actually, that again became contextual. I had a teaching opportunity with the University of Kyoto that was sort of falling into place during my move here in June 2017. I joined in February. Since Japan was also an option, and I went there, I met the ambassador. He was gung-ho. He said, you must, Japan is the future for India, infrastructure, investments, this, that. Then that, Modi and Abe were, every year they would have a summit. And that year it was going to be in Ahmedabad. In fact, he said we must plan it in such a way that we can get some time from the two prime ministers to get the center going. So that was going to happen, I think, in September of that year. So that gave us a nice timeline, and I visited some of the universities. They were all very, very supportive, including our exchange program school. So that's how Japan came. So now, in the process of discussing about Japan, so one of the sub-institutions that got created when I took over as director, again due to a prior committee report, was this idea of the IEC, the Institute Executive, Internal Executive Committee. In the IEC, we had also discussed about this China versus Japan, and so anyway, the Japan thing was taken in. It was then, I think, let me get the timing right. So September. Professor Abhay Oja, no, he was not yet in the IEC, but I think he had been meeting me, and he had this interest in Israel. And he was saying that, look, if the framework that we have applied for Japan, if you can also apply it for Israel, because there is a group of faculty.
And they had already been engaging, I think,
they had been engaging with Israel. Then we discussed it in the IEC, and the IEC said, we should go ahead with Israel too. So that's how Israel happened. September, the Japan Study Center came in, then the Israel Center came in November. There was already thought around one center, the Center for Teaching and Learning. I think there had been discussion in some earlier academic council meeting, which I had picked up, and then I was talking around, and people said, it needs to be consolidated. And so I said, if there is energy from a supply side, I know there is demand out there, and one can do a lot. And already some programs were going on. I think as soon as I came, there was one program with ISB targeted at doctoral students with a teaching perspective. MOOCs used to have faculty development programs, and so we said we should just give it a structure and get it going, and so that happened. And communication was an area that I think in a management school, communication is important. So we talked about it in the academic council. There was a debate whether it should be an area or it should just be a center. But we also saw that every time you know that better, that every time just before the course, people would get their letters. I guess that was part of a process. But here was a course that we know has to happen year after year, and so the sense was, should we not have actually some full-time faculty? And so anyway, thanks to you bringing, we got it going. Though I think I'm left with the feeling that we couldn't sort of sufficiently get
Strengthen it.
faculty strength into it. I think they're still trying. Maybe, the professor of practice, which by the way was another...
It was a wonderful innovation as far as we were concerned.
Yeah, again, see, it was there. It had already been conceptualized. So my role was, let's
Push it through.
push it, get action going. And thanks to you, you came on as the first professor of practice. So I think we could be getting at least professors of practice, if not in the research sense, because the journal list, and there are many other things that need to happen, to sort of get the research-oriented people in this. But maybe the professors of practice. So that's that's one area where I feel maybe more push could have happened. But anyway. Hopefully.
You also initiated a review of all the centers. That is a practice which has been started.
Yeah, because if we have centers, I think centers typically should have a 5-year life, and unless it's reinforced that it is relevant, otherwise it should, we should sort of think that close it. So we said there are about 10 centers, and so if you want to set this up on a 5-yearly time frame, every year 2 centers must. So we started out with the oldest 2 centers, and so did in the first year 2 of them, that is CSITM and CPP. The following year we did NSR Cell and CCGC. So that should, for 10 centers, I think we'll do it's been a useful exercise. Of course, the first question was, should the center continue? Of course, I think all the 4 review committees said, where is the question of it not continuing? Meaning I felt that was not, that line of thought was not given its due. It was, the premise was always, no, we should continue, and how to strengthen, how to make it. So, of course, I'm just thinking that probably that thought should come from a larger level, because we have to see there is only so much faculty bandwidth. Obviously, a committee is going to say, we must do the best that we can, because that institutional perspective has to come from somewhere else. So I think that needs a little